Hi, it's Steph Kohler from Ligantic here, and today I'm going to take you through a tutorial on how to create a portfolio on the Ligantic platform. In this session, we're going to cover a lot of the fundamentals around creating a portfolio that has a home page, an about page, a contact page, and we're going to publish this live. That's going to cover off on the three fundamentals of the Ligantic platform: building some schemas where you can store some data, building some flows so you can work with that data. But we're primarily going to be working in the Experience Designer, where we can build this web page and make it live. So let's have a look at the portfolio that we're going to create today. This is it live and available to have a look at. On the home page, we've got a navbar up the top. We've got a little bit of content. We've got a portfolio of different images that we can see here. If we go over to the About page, you can see again there's some content, a little bit of a different layout. And then finally, we've got the contact page here. Shows another one of the portfolio pieces and has a working designed contact page. So let's get into starting to create this. The first thing we're going to do is have a look through the Experience Designer. So we'll jump into the Ligantic platform here. I'm going to create a brand new space for this tutorial, and I'm going to call it Portfolio Demo. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to jump into our Experience Designer. So I can do this from the home page. Might just move me up slightly over there. So I can do this from the home page here by clicking the new experience creation here. Or I could also go through that space settings just down on this bottom left here. Let's jump in and create a brand new experience from here. I'm going to call this home, and because I want it to show up on the home page, I'm not going to give it a path name. And so that looks like this. So if we go back to here, there's a rounded introduction to the Experience Designer just here. Up the top, we've got all of the experience details. So this talks about the page name or the experience name. That's an internal representation, so what you can see on the Ligantic platform, what it's called. There's a title, and so if we look at the title, it's shown in the top of the browser here, which is home. And the path name is what's shown after the app. So if we go to About here, we can see that the path name is About, and that's what would be shown here. We've also got some other things that are shown up in this top experience details section. There's some metadata, so I can open this up and you can add some different metadata items if you'd like. There's everything from being able to add a favicon or a description, all the way through to some specific images that you want to show if you're sharing this on a social media platform. We're not going to edit any of those in this tutorial, so I'll just close that one out. From here, you can also see we've got version control. So if you click the version, we can see we're on the first version here. We're in draft mode because we haven't published it yet, but you'll see as we progress through the tutorial, this version will increase as we publish and save new versions. And anytime you want to go back to a previous version, you can do so by clicking here and then clicking the version that you want. Finally, we've also got these undo and redo steps at the top of the Experience Designer, so you're able to go backwards and forwards between steps that you've edited. This is really powerful in case you make a mistake, so you should feel free to go in and make the edits that you like. So now that we know this top section here on the experience details, we'll move down into this bottom section here, which is the designer interface. You can see there's three main panels, so this left panel, this center panel, and this right panel. What we have in the left-hand panel is two tabs. First is our block selector. From here you can grab blocks, so the different types of blocks or components that you can drag into the design. You can drag these from this block selector section onto the designer canvas in the center, just like that. When a block is selected, over on the right-hand panel, you see the context configuration, which is based on the selected block. Because I've got a box type block, you'll see I've got a block type here. If I had a different type of block, you'll have different context on this right-hand side. The other section that you'll see on here is the other tab, which is called the Tree Navigator. You'll see the box block that we just dropped onto the Canvas designer just there. So what we can do, and we'll go back to the introduction, what we've just covered there is a quick run through around the Experience Designer, all of the options and configuration settings that we've got at the top, and a quick introduction to the designer interface. So on that left-hand panel, we've got the block selector and the tree navigation options, and we've got the center panel there with the designer canvas. And then on the right panel, we've got that context configuration based on the selected block. We'll learn more about each of these sections or each of these elements as we navigate through and create this tutorial together. So let's jump in and create that homepage. The first thing we're going to do is create the body, which is that box. So if we go back to our home page over here, we'll see that the main container or the main page is a basic white background that goes throughout the whole page. So we've pulled this on here, a box. What we need to do is now go over into this right-hand panel in the context configuration, and we want this to span for the entire height of the page. So what we can do is we can click the size configuration and scroll down, and we want it to grow to 1. We want it to grow to 1 because, as you'll see just there, it then spans and grows to all of the available size available to it. So by doing that, we set that to there and to grow to there. We also want to make sure that it's a nice white background. Our example here has got a crisp white background. So we're going to make a white background for ours as well. So going to the background, we can hit plus to set that background color. You can see it's defaulted to a gray. What we're going to do is set that to white, which has the hex code hex code FFF. We can also click in here and select it from a color selector, change it to an RGB color if we want, HSLA color, or back to hex. So I'm going to keep it as that. Close that one there. So now we have that full body white background, which is exactly where we want to start with this. Now that we have the full body white background, the next thing we're going to build is actually this navbar at the top. And so the way that we're going to do that is we're going to drag another box in. And so I'm going to do that. So we can see that this box now is sitting within the larger box. If we go over to the tree navigator, we can start seeing box within a box. So this is where we really want to start cleaning up our project and making sure that we're following some naming conventions so it's easier for us to see what's going on later. So I'm going to click into this container box, which is the whole body. And I'm going to change the name of it to body. So it is the whole project or the whole background there. And then I'm going to change this one here, instead of being called box, because it's going to be the navbar, I'm going to call it navbar. That way, when we see in the tree navigator over here, we can start to really understand what we're looking at quite quickly. And it really helps with the longevity of your project to be able to jump in and see all of those very quickly. So the other things that we're going to drag inside of this navbar box here is we want to put an image for the logo to sit in there. And we also want to get those 3 links. And so we could just drag the links box in here, but it is good practice, or it's a lot easier for us to shape where we want the elements on the page to be when we put them inside a containing box. So I'm going to put a box in here, and then I'm going to drag 1, 2, 3 links in. Now we'll see immediately the default order of this is to go vertically. And for a navbar, we actually want them to be listed or to have a layout of being horizontal. So I'm going to click back into our containing navbar box here and go into our layout here. Now in our layout, you can see you've got 4 different context options. If you hover over these and wait for a little while, you'll get a tooltip that talks about the name of the option there. And so what we want is that we want the direction of all of the content here to go in a row. which is it's now set the box to go first, and then on the right hand side of that we've got the image first and then the box, which is exactly what we want. The next thing that we want is that we want this box to also be that layout. So we want to click the layout here and choose that to go on there. And there are some other options in this layout configuration that I want to talk through. So there's an alignment, so you can align things to the top. You can align it to the center, to the bottom, or to the end. You can stretch it out so it goes across the entire container, or you can set it to a baseline. You can also justify the content. So that's where you can either justify it to the left, so you push things to the left. You justify it to the center, like this. You push it to the right. You have space between, space around, or space things evenly. And you can also choose things to have a wrap or no wrap, so that when it gets shrinked into a smaller screen, it either wraps and loops over each other or it doesn't wrap there. So there are a couple of different options around the different layout options that you can choose there. For this link box, I'm also going to change the size. So remember how we set the grow one to grow up and use all of the available space? That's what we're also going to do for this navbar. And what we're going to do is center those links. So in any of the available space, they're going to flex to the center of those. We actually also want to center them, so they'll be in the center of this logo here. So you can see how, as you're kind of making these changes, you're seeing the live changes happen in that center here. Now, one of the things I want to draw our attention to is up in the top of the experience details, we do have a red broken cloud here. Now, this means that there's an error on the page or error on the experience designer that is going to stop us from the automatic saving is not enabled right now. And I can see with this red line around the image block, it's saying that it doesn't have enough information in it right now to save it. And so if I look into here, it's because we haven't set the source of the image, and we're going to have to do a little bit of work before we get to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the image block, and for the moment, I'm going to delete it. That way we'll come back to this nice green tick, which means we've automatically saved the navbar there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go in and show, we'll focus on these links for now, and then I'll pop the image back in a second. So getting back to making sure that we're naming everything that we want to be naming and being able to follow everything that we're building, I'm going to go back to this box and call that navbar links, because I can quickly see in the tree navigator how this goes through. I'm going to change this one to home, this one to link to about, and this one to link to contact. Now that just changes the name of the box. You can now click into any text block. You can double click it and select the text and edit it just like you would on any regular text element. For looking at those, that's probably a little closer than I would normally have my navbar. So let's add some spacing. So if I click the navbar links and go over to this configuration, you can see below the layout and space that we've already talked about briefly, we've got the spacing option here. Now we can add a gap just like that, and it'll start to give us that spacing that we want to see. And what that does, it just introduces a gap between the elements that are contained in that containing block. So we've got the home, about, and contact links that are contained in here, and it's just added a size 10 gap in there. You can also set very specific margins and padding, so either on the top, the left or the right, or the bottom, or set them equally all across the board. You can also, for typography containing elements, change some of the typography in there. You could go in and change the color to red, and it'll apply to all of the containing text elements from this box here. So if we wanted to change all of these to a bold, you could do that from here, and then you wouldn't need to set each of them individually. So I'm going to take that red color off because it was a little bit aggressive, and I'll keep the bold on. There's also some other elements here where you can go against the defaults that are applied from the theme. Right now, the font family is set to a default, but if we wanted all of the navbar text to be a different font, you could choose from the provided fonts here. We could choose it to shift to an Oswald or a Intertype, or we can go back to just leveraging the built-in theme that you can change there. You can change the font size, the text alignment to go to either left, center, or right. You can change the approach of the text wrap, add in what you'd like to apply for in the white space, as well as some line heights. In that way, you can have really good fine-grained control over the typography you'd like to apply for subsections of every bit of the experience. We will get into the border as well. So you can come in here and add a solid border if you'd like to have that around an element. Sorry, you've got to make sure you've selected the right component and the right configuration there. So you can change the color. So again, you can change that to a red if you'd like. You can change the width, so you can get quite wide, and also you can add a radius. So this is how you add the rounded corners on them. So that is a way to add a border. It's a really good way for you to have a lot of control over the display of elements within the page as well. Right. There's no border in the design that we're working on, so I'm just going to get rid of those ones there and see that it's happily gone away. And we've made a good start. We do have if I hit publish on here, we can go up and see into the cloud version, and that'll take us through to our demo here. You can see we've got the home, about, and contact page that are linked up. Obviously, we didn't add any where for them to go, so they're just empty links at this point. But we're nearly done on the navbar component, which is a really exciting spot for us to be in. But for us to be able to upload some images for us to leverage, we want to save this here, and we're actually going to go back to the home screen and create a schema. Now this schema is what I like to pop in and call images or image. And from here, we'll create somewhere for us to upload and store image files that we're going to use on the website. So if I look on this home page, we've got a few images that we want to make sure that we have available. The first is this logo for the navbar. The second is this this image here. If I scroll down, there's also these icons here for the social media. If I keep scrolling, we have these portfolio images, but because there might be quite a few portfolio images that we want to leverage, I'm going to not upload these to start with. I'll put them into their own separate schema. And I'm going to do that because we're going to have website-based images and then portfolio images. And that'll allow us to continually grow those portfolio images as we need to for this project. So to make a schema for us to upload images, it's really quick and easy. We're going to go back to our create schema. We're going to call it an image schema, and we're going to add two properties. The first property is going to be a file, and we're going to choose a file type. In the details, we're going to open that up. We're going to allow image types, and we can open that up and see that that's going to open allow a whole bunch of different images. And we might bump up the size allowance on this to 25 megabytes. That'll allow a few. And I'm also going to check this display media preview so that when I do upload a file, I can see it in the schema view there. And I'm also going to want to upload or to name the files. So I'm going to call it a title. Now, because I like to see that a title rather than the generated ID, I'm going to put the title into our display name template here. So this is a great little hint if you would like to have a schema that doesn't show the automatically generated ID that's created for each of your entities. You can use the format of open curly braces, and then any number of the fields here. So you could do file, you could use title, and making sure it's exactly the same case and title, that text. That's why I copy it. You put it in the middle, and then close those curly braces. And in doing that, it changes how it looks like when it saves. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So I've got the schema. You'll see on the left-hand side, we've now got a list of schemas with images available. I'm going to jump in and I'll create a brand new one. I'll select a file to upload here for the logo, and I'll call it logo. When I create and save that image, you'll see in the ID field, instead of it having an automatically generated ID, it's got our logo, our title there. That's referenced. We see the file is there. If I just jump in and we'll upload another image, select a file, grab the one there, give it a title, and hit save. So we can see these ones coming together quite quickly. Now I'm going to quickly add in those other social media icons. Feel free to jump past this one if you want. So now we can see we've got all of the images that we're going to need for that top bit of the homepage. We can go back, we can close out this tab because we've got the images there. Go back to the experience editor that we're wanting. Because this one is saved, we can hit refresh. We'll see that the images schema is available on the left-hand side there. And what we can do is we can go back to our block selector. We'll bring in that image. We'll go to our tree navigator because I can see the image is actually fallen into the navbar links box, but we want it to just be moved inside the navbar, so I can just pick that up and move it to where I need it to be. Now in the image configurator, you'll see over on the right hand side, we actually have a couple of different options. So in our image here, I'm going to change that to be an entity. I'm going to go through to our image. And so what that does is it makes the schemas that we've made in the platform available. I'm going to choose the image schema, and then I'll go through and select our logo. That's probably a little bit large for our logo. I'm probably going to keep it more around the 50 to 50 pixel size. That looks a lot better. We have the ability to configure a few different things, including how this object is fit within it and the object position. So if we scroll that there, that's actually by default exactly what we want it to do. You can see the other options that we still have is the size, border, background. Border is a really important one for images. So if we wanted to turn this into a circular image, we can jump in here, create a solid border, take that without any color, and give it a radius of 25 pixels. And you'll see if I make that a width of 0 pixels, it won't have a border shown, but you can kind of see it there. It gives it that circular view in a logo. Now, it doesn't make sense for this specific image, but that's a really good tip for you to know that you can apply the border to an image, and that'll give it that circular feel. Don't necessarily need that one now, so I'll close that one out. So we want to go get rid of the width, get rid of the radius, color, and then close. And you'll see we're back to normal. I could have also used my undo buttons to get through there. So just looking at our reference here. Now I see when we're on the home page, we want to make sure our about and contact are a lighter color. So I'm going to just grab my reference color here. Move that to be just slightly lighter, and the reason we're doing that is just so as a visual cue to show that it's not the selected page. So with that, our navbar is now complete. Well done. So a lot of different pieces to come together, but you can see how it can come together quite quickly, quite robustly. We're able to navigate through creating an image, a multiple linked navbar, and we can get started going on through. If I hit publish, we can see this in the cloud and see that'll scale with us, regardless of the size of the screen as well. So we've gone through, created our body, created our navbar. Let's jump into creating our content. Okay, so our main content here is going to have, if we jump into our reference, it's going to have a containing box so we can contain the whole thing. If I can see here, there's a max width that it's being shown, so that it doesn't go to the full width of the side of the screen. In keeping that centered, it makes it feel like we're using that white space, and it can feel quite good and spacious, which is what we want. There's also a little bit of a gap at the top here that gives us that, again, that white space feel. We've got a hero image, a heading, a little bit of copy introducing it, and then those 3 image links that we want to add in there. So let's jump in and get started on that copy and content. We're going to go over to the block selector and drop in another box. We'll see on the tree navigator that it's fallen in under the navbar. On top of the navbar, but we want to drag it down below the navbar. Now I'm going to give this one a name of content, or actually main is going to be a more fitting description. And again, I'm just thinking about the different size elements that we want to be putting in here. I'm going to go into our layout. I'm going to make this one go on a vertical or a column direction. I want everything in this box to be centered. And so I can probably keep that as our main layout. When I think about the different size of this one, we want this to use the full width that is available to it, so 100% of the width that is available. But we also want to give it a max width. And in giving it a max width of, say, 960 pixels, that means it will use all of the available width on it. So on a smaller screen, it will be at 100%. But once a screen is at 960 pixels or wider, it will kind of constrain itself to that width. And then that'll give us that white space that I talked about earlier. Brilliant. So from there, we want to be able to bring in some other blocks. So again, looking at this home page for reference, we want to bring in an image, a text block that'll be our header, a text block that'll be our copy, and then another box to contain these 3 image links. So let's bring them in now. We'll do a box to contain the header, and that will contain our image. And I'm also going to put the heading text in underneath that. That's exactly how we want it. Let's put these in a different order. And so for our image, let's go in and select it. We're going to swap this to entity. We're going to select image schema, and we're going to choose that photographer image. Now it's currently defaulted to that 300 size. So let's make that, because it's should actually be a square, let's make that 300 by 300. So that looks good. Now, if I wanted to achieve this look, which is the circular look, and it hadn't already been edited that way, I could use that border trick that I just used before. And then in our text one, I'm going to grab the copy from my example page over here. Now, there's a couple of things. We want to go into the typography. We want this text alignment to be center. And if I select all of this, we want it to, instead of being paragraph, we want it to be a heading one. Okay, so now they can see that that's sort of split this over to the left. So if we look at this header box here, we want to make sure in the layout, everything is centered, including that picture. And we want to add, again, in terms of the spacing, we want to add a little bit of a gap there. So let's add a gap of 5. That looks pretty good. And if I look at this header image, in our reference one, we had a little bit of a gap. So if I look at the spacing above that one, I'm just grabbing it here. We might want to include some margin. So if I go, it's probably a little bit too big. There we go. And that looks like it's got a nice bit of space between that navbar, the hero image, and the what's that called? The heading image there. No, sorry, the heading content there. So I'm just going to keep going through. I'm going to grab in another bit of text and drop that one in there. Scroll that down to the right spot and grab the copy that I want included. I'm going to click into that text field here, paste it in. Now again, I want this all centered, so I'm going to go over to the typography and text align center. Probably want it to be a little bit bigger than its default as well. So I'm going to give that one a 20 pixel sizing. Doing that just brings that up a bit. I also am feeling that's probably a little bit too close to this heading here. So I'll jump into our spacing and add, again, a little bit of margin at the top there, and that just adds some space between the one above it. So you can, because there is just such a quick and visual representation around what we're seeing, you can kind of play around with the different sizing or spacing until you're happy with it. So we've got the image text in really quickly. I'm going to now move on to those 3 image links to our social links. So I'm going to include a box. I'm going to go back to our tree, make sure it's in the right order here. So I'm going to rename this one to social links. I'm going to rename this text to header or heading and copy. Then we can start just really quickly seeing what is over there. In our social links, we're going to include 3 links in here. So 1, 2, 3. And in each of those links, we're going to include an image. I'm just going to do the first one there because there is actually a trick that you can do here because we want to get rid of that. Actually, I'll do the first one. So that first one here is a link for Facebook. We'll select the image just like we did before, swap that to entity, choose the image that we want, change it to the size, much smaller than that. But we see that this still has a text here. So we want to actually select that block, press delete. Now we'll see that this only has the Facebook. There we go. It only has the Facebook image in it. So then we still have these other 2 links. If I go to our link here, facebook.com link there, we can see that that's actually going to go to a place. It's going to, if I click here, I can actually navigate up to the higher one, go to the facebook.com and go from there. Now, we want our social links to actually be in a different direction. We don't want them vertical, we want them horizontal. So I'm going to go to our layout, change the direction here. We want them to have a little bit of a gap, so I'm just going to go in and press 2 on these ones. And then one of the things that I want to show you is that when you have another block type that you want to copy, you can actually select the block. So it's got the Facebook and it'll select everything underneath it. I can copy, I can click this other link and I can press, I press Command C and Command V. In doing that, it's just copied everything from that one. I can also right click and select copy and right click and select paste. And it just helps me to really quickly duplicate that. So I'm going to quickly now just go through and make those changes. I'll change the title. Instead, that's Instagram. I'll select the change the image. So get rid of that one. Let's choose the Instagram one, but it's kept all of the same sizing. Link to Instagram instead. And I think the last one was LinkedIn. We can link to LinkedIn instead. We can change this image. And there we go. So if I hit publish on this one and open up our demonstration, we can see that this is actually in the wrong alignment. So it's included that width. What we need to do here is go up to our body, go to our layout, and make sure that that's all aligned to the center, which is where we want it to be. What that's done is it pushed our navbar into a center alignment where we actually want to change the size of that one. So we want our navbar to always be at 100% width. And in that way, we're back to the expected sizings. That's why it's so important to publish those changes and see them in the wider view or in the native view. And we've actually been able to generate that navbar, the content, and all of these links here. Now, this gets a lot quicker as you're going through and not describing each of the elements. Hopefully you're grabbing at some really good tools and tips to work with the experienced designer. The final bit that we want to do here is actually the portfolio itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new schema that talks to portfolio images, and that'll allow you to upload as many portfolio images as you want, and I'll show you how we can link to that data and loop over them without having to go in and change on the experience side. We do this because it makes it a much more dynamic site, and it allows you to have either connect it to schemas in Ligantic or external systems to upload a ever-evolving portfolio. So let's make sure everything is automatically saved, which is exactly what we want. And we'll go back to our space and we'll create a new schema called portfolio, a portfolio image. Again, I'm going to keep this in a really similar format to our website images. I'm going to add a file, which is going to allow image files. We might also allow video files. I'm going to allow an increased size for this one because it might be a higher format. I'm going to add another property called title, and I'm also going to add a property called description, although we might not use it for this first version. Because the description might be more than just text, it might be rich text. I'm actually going to use the field type content. And again, because I want to use that display name, I'm going to copy the title. I'm going to go open curly brace, double open curly brace, paste in that name of that field, close double curly brace. And we have our brand new portfolio images schema. I'm going to go through a similar process to before, where I'm going to upload some of the some sample portfolio images. Feel free to skip past this bit or watch it in fast forward. Now I'm seeing as I'm going through and doing this, I actually want to change the order of my schema because my title feels a little bit odd being underneath the file itself. So I'm going to come in here and drag my title field up. I'm going to put my file in there. I'm going to keep my description below it. I'm just going to hit Save Schema. And then when we go into this next one, we'll have the file field underneath. That feels a lot more intuitive. So as I'm going through there, I can hit create, or I can hit Command S on my keyboard if you want a keyboard shortcut. The other thing you can do is in a text field, not in a rich text field, but a text field, you can press Return or Enter, and that'll also save the entity itself. So now we've got 4 portfolio images there. We can go back to our experience to edit it. So one way you can get back to the experience is go into the space settings. And you'll see in the space settings, you've got all of these different tabs that you can go to. You can see the 2 schemas that we've created in the schemas tab. I'm going to go over to the experiences tab here and into the home experience that we've created and have been working through. All right, this is looking exactly as we want it to. I'm going to close up the navbar, close up this header box because I'm going to be adding in a brand new box, which I believe beneath the main section or within the main section here, which is to contain our portfolio. So we'll close these ones out again. We actually want this one to go back in so it sits at the same hierarchical level as header. Portfolio. All right. And in these, we want to pull in just one box. And in that box, we want to just bring in a single image because what we're going to do is we're going to data link all of the images here. So on our portfolio box here, we can see 3 of the configuration over on the right hand side. I haven't really shown you yet. So this is where our data links start coming in. I'm going to do a query that looks for all of the images in our portfolio images schema. So I'm going to enable this and I'm going to select the schema portfolio image. I'm going to order them in descending order by created at, so just by the most recent there. Or is it least recent? I always get those mixed up. We're not going to add any filters on here, and it's going to default choose the top 25. I could add in a limit there, but I'm not going to for this example. So what that's doing is it's querying over each of those. You'll see it's added a purple tag against the portfolio box here to show you that there is a query against this block element. And then I'm going to go into the containing block element here, which is the image container. And in that image container, I'm going to go down into the ForEach. So what this is I'm going to, for each portfolio image that there is, and remember we uploaded 4, I'm going to enable this. I'm going to ask it to loop over all of the portfolio images, which is the name of the query here. And we'll see it's now looping over and showing 4 instances of this, which is exactly what we want it to do. We don't want to select a path because we want to get the entire context of the image here. Let's select this image, and again we want to data link it to a dynamic one here. And so when I've got these both selected, instead of it going to a specific schema, we're not going to reference that, it's going to reference the responses. So we want it to come back with the portfolio image, that is the file. And just like that, we've got all of the images that are saved in our schema showing in a list on our on our page, which is exactly what we want. This can be Currently it's 4 images. It might have been 400. So you could imagine why you don't want to go through and individually link them up. So just like that, you've been able to create a dynamic web page. It's a little bit of setting up or foundational work to go from there, but let's start to change the experience so it looks exactly how we want it. Let's set some of these widths to look a little bit more like what we were after. I did say that we were gonna work through what this object fit could look like, because each of these might be a different dimension. We don't want to have it in contain because it doesn't look quite like we want. We actually want to go down to the cover. So that'll scale up to meet the size of the image that we've just set there. So if I just go and publish that now and jump out into our cloud to have a look and see what we've got, it's starting to look a lot like our previous version, which is what we want. But we did want them to go over two columns where we can. So let's go back and do that. So in our portfolio here, in our layout of that, we actually want to, instead of them going, up, on a vertical, we want them to go on that horizontal. We want to justify the contents, and it's, oh my goodness, it's squished them all in. What we want to do is allow them to wrap over that view. So just by setting that, it's been able to go through. We'll see it's still in that single list because now we've got to do some math to make them fit. So in our main here, we've got our sizing set to a maximum width of 960 pixels. So we'll only grow to that size. And in our images here, the image size, we've got a width of 570. What we want to do is have them fit across there in a really nice 2-column width, which might actually be a little bit wider than that 960 that we want for the rest of the content. Very easy fix for us here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this portfolio so that it's at the same hierarchical height of our main. And then what it'll do is it won't be constrained by the width of that main. So if I hit publish on this one again and go down there, we can see we've got that's now falling a little bit wider than our constrained content. And we can see we've got a really strong looking page. So with all of the work that we've done, if I go back to our plan here, we've created the body, shown how that box can be configured. We've created the navbar, demonstrating that you're able to add in both an image schema, configure the images on the experience, and create those links. We've added some content. You know how to change the text in there. And you've created the portfolio with a dynamic portfolio link by creating those portfolio schemas, creating that image container and layout, and linking those up with a query and a ForEach. So we might pause this video here. We're nearly at the hour mark. We'll come back with a part 2 where we'll create the about page and that working contact form. But this has been really great. Hopefully you've learned a lot about the Experience Designer and feel super empowered to go in and configure either a replica of this or your own experiences. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to seeing what you create, and please post any questions you've got into the Discord. We can answer them from there.